The first sign of trouble came with a knock on my car window, sharp, insistent. I had been sitting outside a coffee shop waiting for Jessica. She was supposed to meet me after work, but as the minutes stretched, 20, then 30, she still hadn't shown up. I called once. No answer. Sent a text. Nothing. A weight settled in my stomach, a heavy, unshakable sense of unease. Then the knock. Turning my head, I expected to see her rushing over with some excuse, but instead there was a man. Mid-30s, neatly dressed in a tailored jacket like someone who just stepped out of an expensive boutique. He didn't fit the image of someone who would randomly knock on a stranger's car window. Yet his expression, tight, calculated, was anything but friendly. I rolled the window down just an inch. He didn't introduce himself, didn't offer a polite smile. His first words were direct. "You waiting for Jessica?" A chill ran through me. The way he said her name, it wasn't casual. It wasn't a guess. He knew her. My grip on the steering wheel tightened and I didn't respond. I didn't need to. He let out a slow breath, glancing over his shoulder as if checking for prying eyes. Then, in a tone that was unsettlingly matter-of-fact, he said, "She's not coming." My chest tightened. What? She's not coming. His eyes held mine, steady and watchful as if gauging my reaction. Dread crept through me, slow but suffocating. My voice came out stiff. "Who are you?" A slight shift in his expression, a faint, almost pitying smile. "I think you already know." The tension snapped inside me. I shoved my car door open and stepped out, my pulse hammering. "Say it." He studied me for a moment as if weighing his words. Then finally he gave a small nod. "I'm the guy she's been with." The statement hit like a wrecking ball, the force of it knocking the breath from my lungs. But even as my world spun, as my mind scrambled to process what I had just heard, I noticed something odd. He didn't look triumphant. There was no smug grin, no sense of victory. If anything, he looked tired. He took a step back. "Look, I'm not here to cause trouble. I just thought you should know. She's been lying to you for a while." I stared at him, at the way he shoved his hands into his pockets and avoided my gaze. If this was just a cruel game to him, he was hiding it well. I forced the word out. "How long?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Months." The door of the coffee shop swung open behind me. My head instinctively turned, half expecting to see Jessica walking out, blissfully unaware of the destruction unfolding. But it was just a couple lost in their own world, laughing together. I looked back at him. "Why are you telling me this?" His jaw clenched. "Because she told me she was single." I froze. "She never mentioned you," he continued, his voice edged with something closer to anger now. "Not once. I didn't even know you existed until last week." He exhaled sharply. "And when I found out, I ended it." The words barely registered. The rush of betrayal, of disbelief, roared in my ears. He ran a hand over his face, exhaling heavily. "Look, man. Do what you want with this. Just don't let her manipulate you. She's going to try." A pause. "And she's good at it." A fresh wave of anger surged through me, but before I could respond, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the night. Like a ghost, leaving destruction in his wake. I stood frozen, breath uneven, my world tilting beneath me. Then finally I pulled out my phone. And I called her. It rang twice before she answered. "Hey, babe." Her voice was light. Casual. As if she hadn't just been exposed. As if my world hadn't just collapsed around me. I clenched my jaw, forcing my tone steady. "Where are you?" A beat of silence, just a second too long. Then smoothly, "Still at work. We had a last-minute meeting." I closed my eyes, inhaling slowly. She was lying. Effortlessly. "That's funny," I said, keeping my voice level. "Because I just met someone who said otherwise." Another pause. This one stretched longer, sharper. I could almost hear the gears turning in her mind, calculating her next move. When she spoke again, her tone had shifted. It was tighter now, forced. "What are you talking about?" A bitter laugh almost escaped me. "I'm talking about the guy you've been seeing behind my back." Silence. Cold and heavy, stretching impossibly long. Then, a sharp breath. "Who told you that?" "Not I can explain. Not that's not true. Just a demand." "Who told?" I glanced down the street, but he was gone. "He did." Jessica swore under her breath. Unbelievable. Then her voice turned clipped, controlled. "Where are you?" I didn't answer. "Where are you?" Another pause. She was good at this, too good. But there was tension now, cracks forming in her composure. "I'm heading home," she finally said. "We'll talk there." I didn't bother responding. Just hung up. By the time I pulled into the driveway, her car was already there. She must have rushed home. Good. She should be panicking. I stepped inside. She was waiting in the living room, arms crossed. her face set in a mask of controlled frustration. Not guilt, not remorse, frustration, as if I were the problem here. Her voice came sharp, accusing. So, you're really going to believe some random guy over your own wife? A hollow laugh escaped me. Oh, so now he's just some random guy. I don't even know who you're referring to. That was her response. Seriously? That was the approach she was taking? She let out a long breath, rubbing her temples as if she were the one dealing with a pounding headache. Listen, she started, her tone careful. I don't know what he told you, but I didn't let her finish. He told me everything. I interjected, my voice even and controlled. I wasn't raising it, wasn't losing my temper, and that unsettled her. For the first time I saw it, the flicker of unease in her expression. She wasn't used to me being this composed. She pressed her lips together for a moment, licking them as if buying herself time. And what exactly did he say? She finally asked. I stepped closer. That you told him you were single, that this has been happening for months. That when he found out you were married, he cut things off. I tilted my head slightly. That sound about right? A tiny twitch crossed her face, barely noticeable, before she let out a scoff. Oh my God! You're really going to believe him over me? He had no reason to lie. And I do. I studied her carefully before nodding. Yes. Her lips pressed into a thin, tight line. Unbelievable, she muttered, shaking her head before raising her voice. Do you even hear yourself? You're letting some stranger come in and ruin our marriage, and you don't even stop to consider that maybe, just maybe, he's making all of this up. I folded my arms across my chest. So you're saying he fabricated everything? Every detail? Every text? The fact that you've been acting distant for months? That you suddenly needed space? That your entire schedule shifted for no apparent reason? None of that seems suspicious to you. Her nostrils flared. I needed space because of you, she snapped. Because you were constantly hovering, constantly questioning me. A sharp, bitter laugh escaped me. Wow, so now this is my fault. She threw up her hands. I don't know. Maybe. You don't even trust me anymore. So what's the point? This is ridiculous. I can't do this, she said, turning away as if the conversation was over, as if she could just walk away from the mess she had created. And that's when I lost it. Stop walking away from me. She froze. Slowly, she turned back around, her face eerily blank. I stepped closer. You don't get to do that. You don't get to just decide when this conversation ends. Her arms folded again, her chin lifting defiantly. And what exactly do you want me to say? That I messed up? Fine. I messed up. Are you happy now? A mistake. She called it a mistake. As if this was as simple as forgetting to grab something from the store. My stomach twisted. That's what you call it? She let out an exasperated breath. Look, I don't want to fight. Then tell me the truth. I already did. No, you didn't. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. I wanted to yell, to shake her, to force her to say the words. But more than anything, I wanted to know. How long had she been planning to lie to me? She let out another sigh, rubbing the bridge of her nose before finally looking at me. She started, then hesitated. I needed time. I blinked. Time. She nodded. To figure things out. To process how I felt. But when I gave you space, everything changed, I said, tilting my head slightly. Changed how? She bit her lip. You felt it, didn't you? Things weren't the same. You were pulling away too. I stared at her, disbelief settling in. You're really trying to spin this onto me? I'm saying that we weren't working, she insisted. I was confused. I cut her off before she could go any further. You weren't confused. You were cheating. Her expression hardened. It's not that simple. I almost laughed in her face. Oh, it's very simple. You lied. You hid things. And now, instead of owning up to it, you're standing here, acting like the victim. She shook her head. You'll never understand. Something inside me broke at that moment. I had been waiting, hoping for remorse, for regret. Even if it was fake. Even if it was just an attempt at damage control. I had expected her to at least pretend she was sorry. But she wasn't. She didn't regret what she had done. She only regretted getting caught. And somehow that hurt more than anything else she could have said. I stared at her, my chest rising and falling, the room unbearably quiet. I wanted her to break, to say something, anything, that would make this feel less like a complete nightmare. But she just stood there, unyielding, as if she expected me to accept her version of reality. I wasn't going to. Say it, I demanded. She blinked. Say what? The truth. I took a deliberate step forward. Say you cheated. Say you lied. Say you spent months sneaking around while I was at home, believing every word that came out of your mouth. Her jaw tightened, and for a brief moment, something flickered across her face. Hesitation. But she pushed it away almost immediately. I already told you, she muttered, shifting uncomfortably. I was confused. A hollow laugh escaped me, sharp and bitter. Confused? Right? And what exactly were you confused about, Jessica? Whether you were married? Whether I existed? Her lips parted, but no words came. She had no answer. Because there wasn't one. I let the silence stretch, let her sit in it. Feel it. And then, finally, I asked, how long? She shook her head. It doesn't. How long? Her mouth clamped shut. I took another step forward. Was it before you told me you needed space? Was it before you started hiding your phone? Or even before that? A muscle in her jaw tensed, a brief flicker of something she quickly smothered. I don't know, she muttered. A knot tightened in my stomach. You don't know. She let out a sharp breath, rubbing her face as if I were the one exhausting her. I don't keep track of these things, okay? Something inside me snapped. You don't keep track? Jessica, do you even hear what you're saying right now? She flinched just slightly, barely noticeable. But it was enough. Enough to tell me that, deep down, some part of her realized just how horrible that sounded. And yet, there was no apology. No regret. Nothing. I took a step back, shaking my head. My hands curled into fists at my sides, my pulse pounding in my ears. Jessica sighed. I didn't mean it like that. A humorless laugh escaped me. Oh, really? Then how did you mean it? She hesitated, pinching the bridge of her nose. Look, I didn't plan this, all right? It wasn't some big, calculated thing. It just happened. A cold sensation settled deep in my stomach. It just happened? She crossed her arms, her posture stiff, defensive. People make mistakes. I repeated the word, my voice eerily flat. Mistakes. I let it hang between us. Jessica, forgetting to pay a bill is a mistake. Running a red light is a mistake. This. I gestured between us, between the gaping wound she had just carved through her marriage. This was a choice. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed again. She exhaled through her nose, her expression unreadable. I don't know what you want from me. I want the truth. I gave you the truth. No, my voice was sharp, cutting through the space between us. You gave me excuses. She rolled her eyes. And you gave me an interrogation. My whole body tensed. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. She wasn't even trying to fix this. I had walked into this house prepared to fight for answers, for something that might help me understand where everything had gone so terribly wrong. But instead, all I was getting was this cold, detached version of Jessica that felt like a stranger. The woman standing in front of me wasn't my wife. She was someone else entirely. I inhaled slowly, forcing my voice to stay calm. So that's it? My words were quiet, controlled, too controlled. That's all you have to say? Her expression didn't shift. What do you want me to do? You could start by telling the truth, I said, my voice steady. But you won't. Because that would mean admitting to yourself what you did. Jessica let out a short, exasperated laugh, shaking her head. God, you're so dramatic. That was it. That was the moment something inside me broke. Dramatic. I was dramatic for reacting to my wife's betrayal. For being angry that my entire marriage had been a lie. Unbelievable, I muttered, dragging a hand through my hair. She tilted her head, her gaze cool and distant. Are you done? I froze. The way she said it, so dismissive, like this was nothing more than a petty argument about the dishes, made my blood run cold. I looked at her. Really looked at her. And I saw it. She didn't care. She wasn't sorry. She was waiting for me to get over it. Like this was just another rough patch we'd move past. And that was the moment I knew. I stood there, watching her, waiting for something. A flicker of regret. A crack in her facade. Any sign that she understood what she had done. But all I got was boredom. Frustration. Like I was the problem. Like I was the one overreacting. She exhaled sharply and glanced at her phone. Checked the time. She checked the time, as if she had somewhere more important to be. And that was when it truly sank in. She wasn't panicked. She wasn't scrambling for a way to fix this. Because in her mind, this wasn't worth fixing. Something inside me went ice cold. So that's it, I murmured. My voice was quiet, almost calm. You're really not going to apologize? Jessica scoffed. For what? For not being happy. My jaw tightened. That's not what this is about, and you know it. She threw up her hands in exasperation. Do you even hear yourself? You're acting like I burned our house down. We had problems. I was unhappy. Things got messy. It happens. Messy. That word burned. She spoke as if this was just some unfortunate accident. Like she had tripped and landed in another man's arms. I took a slow step forward. You didn't make a mistake, Jessica. You lied. You manipulated me. And now, instead of owning up to it, you're standing here making excuses. She groaned, rubbing her temples as if she were the one suffering. You are exhausting. I almost laughed. Exhausting. Not the months of secrecy. Not the endless lying. Not the emotional turmoil she had put me through. No. The exhausting one, apparently, was me. I took a deep breath, forcing my hands to remain at my sides. Do you even regret it? She hesitated. For the first time. And that hesitation told me everything. Not because she felt guilt. Not because she regretted what she did. But because she was searching for the right answer. The answer that would make me stop asking. When she finally spoke, her voice was devoid of emotion, completely detached. I'm sorry, she said. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Wow. That was convincing. She let out an exaggerated sigh, rolling her eyes. What do you want from me? I want the truth. Jessica tilted her head slightly, arms crossed over her chest. Fine, you want the truth? Here it is. Stepping forward, her face was devoid of any remorse. I haven't been happy for a long time, she admitted, her voice unwavering. And maybe I should have told you sooner, but honestly, it wouldn't have made a difference. You don't really see me. You don't listen. You just expect me to play the role of the perfect wife, waiting for you at home while you go out and live your life however you please. Her words hit like a slap. I blinked, processing. Live my life however I please? She nodded, her expression unwavering. Yes. Everything revolves around your work, your schedule, your rules. Do you really think you've been the ideal husband? Because let me tell you, you haven't. You checked out of this marriage long before I did. A sharp pulse pounded in my skull, anger rising in my chest. So that justifies cheating? You did this to punish me. She exhaled, shaking her head. I didn't plan it. Her voice was disturbingly calm, as if this were just another casual conversation. But once it started, I didn't stop it. That was the moment it truly sank in. She wasn't just indifferent, she actually believed she was justified. I let out a slow, measured breath. Wow. Jessica shook her head in frustration. You're acting like I'm the villain here, but maybe, just maybe, if you had actually been present, I wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere just to feel wanted. I stared at her. The woman I had built a life with. And for the first time since I married her, I felt absolutely nothing. No pain. No fury. Just an undeniable clarity. She was never going to take responsibility. Never going to feel remorse. Never going to see me as anything more than an obstacle in her way. She had already let go. She had already moved on. I nodded once, stepping back. All right? Jessica's eyes narrowed. All right, what? I met her gaze directly. You're right. You're not happy. And neither am I. For the first time, her expression faltered. I turned without another word, walked to the front door, and grabbed my keys. She scoffed behind me. Where are you going? I didn't respond. I just opened the door, stepped outside, and let it slam shut behind me. For the first time in months, I wasn't chasing after her. And I wasn't looking back. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my fingers ached. My pulse was still racing from that final conversation, her cold, detached tone, the way she had twisted everything to make herself the victim, like her betrayal was somehow my fault. I took a deep breath. Then another. But the anger remained, simmering just beneath the surface. I needed to get out of there. Throwing the car into reverse, I pulled out of the driveway without sparing another glance at the house. My house. No, our house. But now? Now, it was nothing more than four walls filled with memories I could no longer trust. I had no destination in mind. I just knew I couldn't stay there. Jessica's words echoed in my mind over and over again. I haven't been happy for a long time. You don't see me. Maybe if you had actually been there, I wouldn't have needed someone else. The audacity. I had never ignored her. Never neglected her. Every trip, every date night, every little effort to make her feel special, I had always made her happiness a priority. But it had never been enough. And the moment things stopped being exciting for her, the moment real life set in, she had gone looking for something else. Someone else. I pulled into the first parking lot I came across, a small, nearly empty 24-hour gas station. The neon open sign blinked rhythmically in the window. I shut off the engine and sat there, staring blankly ahead. I should have called someone. A friend. My brother. Anyone. But I didn't. Because deep down, I felt humiliated. Jessica hadn't just betrayed me, she had made a fool out of me. And worse? She didn't even care. I leaned back in my seat, running a hand over my face as the weight of it all finally started to settle on my chest. This wasn't just another argument. It wasn't something we could work through or patch up. This was the end. And the truth was, Jessica had made that decision long before I walked out that door. That was what hurt the most. Not the cheating. Not the lies. Not even the fact that she had been with someone else. What cut the deepest was the realization that I didn't matter enough for her to even pretend to feel sorry. I glanced at my phone, my thumb hovering over the screen. I wanted to text her. Demand more answers. Ask if this was truly, completely over. But then it hit me. She wouldn't care. She wouldn't reply with regret or apologies. She would double down, say this was for the best. Maybe even admit she had been thinking about leaving for a while. Because that's who she was. And now finally I could see it. The gas station door swung open and a couple walked out, laughing, holding sodas and a bag of snacks. They climbed into their car, still smiling, still talking, completely lost in their own little world. And it struck me. That used to be us. Or at least, I thought it was. Maybe it never truly was. I took a deep breath, exhaling slowly as clarity settled in. A decision formed in my mind: I wasn't going back tonight. And maybe, just maybe, I wasn't going back at all. That night I stayed away. No texts. No calls. For the first time in months, I felt like I was reclaiming control over my own life. I drove aimlessly, watching the city lights blur past as the roads stretched infinitely before me. There was no destination in mind, yet the very thought of having endless possibilities felt more liberating than anything I had experienced in a long time. Eventually, I found myself in front of a rundown motel. It wasn't anything special, just a place that wasn't home. As I checked in, the woman at the front desk barely reacted. She had likely seen men like me countless times before, men walking in at odd hours with the same weary, haunted expression. Without a word, she slid a key across the counter and gestured down the hall. The moment I stepped into the room, exhaustion overwhelmed me and I collapsed onto the bed. But then, without warning, the anger resurfaced. Now that I was away from her, away from the suffocating weight of her deception, my mind was finally clear. As I replayed our last conversation, I saw it differently. At first, I had been waiting for her to break, to show some semblance of remorse. Then I had hoped for at least a flicker of guilt. But now? Now I saw the truth. Jessica had never felt sorry. Her hesitation wasn't regret, it was calculation. She had been assessing whether she could still manipulate me, still control the narrative, still twist the situation in her favor. And the moment she realized she couldn't, she stopped pretending. I ran a hand over my face, frustration tightening in my chest. I had spent so much time trying to understand her actions, searching for some reason behind them. But the truth was simple: she did it because she wanted to. Because she didn't respect me. Because, in her mind, I wasn't enough. And the worst part? She was probably sleeping peacefully at that very moment. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and stared at the screen. No messages. No missed calls. Nothing. Jessica hadn't even bothered to check on me. I could have been lying in a ditch somewhere and she still wouldn't have cared enough to send a simple "Where are you?" That realization hit me harder than I expected. I had spent years believing she was my partner, but the truth was she had been treating me like an afterthought for a long time. Leaning back against the headboard, I clenched my jaw. This needed to end. Completely. No second chances, no talking it through, no allowing her to twist this into something that somehow became my fault. Jessica had made her choice. And now I was making mine. I picked up my phone and started typing, not to her, not to demand answers or another confrontation. No, I texted a lawyer. The message was short and final. I need to file for divorce. The next morning, I woke up to exactly what I expected: nothing. No missed calls. No desperate apologies. Not even a half-hearted excuse. Jessica hadn't even pretended to care that I hadn't come home. And somehow that infuriated me even more. Sitting up on the stiff motel bed, I stared at my phone, my stomach tight. The message to the lawyer sat at the top of my screen, sent, but unanswered. It was early, too early for a response, but that didn't matter. What mattered was that there was no turning back now. I showered, pulled on yesterday's clothes, and grabbed my keys. I wasn't sure what I was expecting as I pulled into the driveway. Would her car still be there? Would she be inside, waiting? Or had she already packed her bags and left? But when I opened the door, there she was, sitting at the kitchen counter, casually eating a bowl of cereal. Like nothing had happened. Like my entire world hadn't just been torn apart. She barely looked up. "You disappeared last night." I let out a short, humorless laugh. "And you didn't even care enough to ask where I was." Jessica shrugged as if it was nothing. "I figured you needed time to cool off." Cool off? Like this was just some petty argument over dinner. Like my anger was some irrational overreaction she expected me to simply get over. I tossed my keys onto the counter. I texted a lawyer. That got her attention. Her spoon hovered midair as she blinked. "What?" "I'm filing for divorce." Jessica slowly set down her spoon, tilting her head. "So that's it? You're just giving up?" A sharp, bitter laugh escaped me. "Giving up? Jessica, you gave up the second you decided to betray me." She rolled her eyes. "You're being ridiculous." My temper flared and I stepped forward, my voice cutting through the space between us. "Oh, I'm the one being ridiculous? You lied to me for months. You snuck around behind my back. And now you expect me to just, what? Move on? Pretend it never happened?" Jessica crossed her arms unfazed. "I thought marriage was supposed to be about forgiveness." I stared at her, feeling like I was looking at a stranger. This woman standing in my kitchen, throwing out empty words as if they meant anything at all. "You don't get to play the forgiveness card," I said firmly. My voice remained low, steady. "Not when you don't even feel bad about it." She exhaled slowly, turning her gaze away. For a fleeting moment, I allowed myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, I had finally gotten through to her. That for the first time since all of this began, she truly grasped the weight of her actions. But then she looked back at me, her expression unreadable. "You'll regret this," she said. I almost laughed. Regret what, exactly? I motioned between us, the space that now felt like an unbridgeable gap. This illusion of a marriage? The years I spent loving someone who never truly respected me. Her eyes darkened. "Don't act like you were perfect. And don't act like you were forced to betray me." Silence settled between us, thick and suffocating, filled with all the things we never said. Finally, she stood, grabbing her phone from the counter. "Fine," she muttered. "If that's what you want." No argument. No pleading. Just a simple acceptance as she reached for her keys and walked out. I watched her car disappear down the street, and for the first time I felt it, the weight beginning to lift. The house was quiet. Truly quiet. No Jessica. No tension clinging to the air. No carefully crafted deceptions disguised as half-hearted justifications. Just me. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the space where she had been only moments ago. My ears still rang with the way she had dismissed it all, as if I were the one throwing something away. "You'll regret this." The words echoed in my mind, each repetition fueling my anger. Regret what? Regret leaving a marriage with someone who refused to take responsibility? Regret walking away from a person who could justify betraying me to my face? The only regret I had was not recognizing her true nature sooner. I sat down and reached for my phone. No missed calls. No messages. Nothing from her. She had walked away as though she had already come to terms with our ending. And at that moment, clarity struck me. Jessica wasn't upset about the divorce, she was upset that I had been the one to make the choice. If I hadn't, she would have twisted the narrative, controlled the situation, and dragged things out. She would have kept me second-guessing myself, playing the victim when it served her. But now? Now she had nothing. I opened my contacts and selected my lawyer's number. A few rings later, a voice answered. "This is Daniel Walker." I exhaled. "Hey, I sent you a message earlier. I need to file for divorce." A brief pause. Then, "All right. I can send over some paperwork today. Are you looking for mediation, or?" "No mediation." My voice was firm. "I just want this over with." Daniel didn't sound surprised. "Understood. Do you have any shared assets? Property? Bank accounts?" "Yeah. The house. The cars. Joint savings." I ran a hand over my face. "Honestly, I don't care what happens to most of it. She can fight for whatever she wants." "I'd still recommend protecting yourself," he advised. "If she decides to make things difficult, you don't want to be caught off guard." I let out a dry, humorless laugh. "Trust me. At this point, nothing she does would surprise me." We discussed the next steps for another 10 minutes. When I finally hung up, everything was clear. The paperwork would be sent over, financials reviewed, and the legal process initiated. And just like that, Jessica and I had an official expiration date. I set my phone down and leaned back, letting it sink in. This wasn't just another argument, another rough patch we'd push through. This was it. No more pretending. No more us. For years, I had fought for this marriage, tried to bridge the growing distance, and fix what she had long since decided to break. But now I was finally done fighting for someone who had never fought for me. I stood, walked to the fridge, and grabbed a beer. I wasn't much of a drinker, but tonight, I would sit on the couch, drink this beer, and enjoy the silence. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting for her to come home. And that felt like freedom. The silence didn't last. The next day, Jessica came back. I heard her car pull into the driveway around noon. Still in sweatpants, I sat on the couch, sipping coffee that had turned cold over an hour ago. I didn't move when I heard the front door open. She still had a key. She shouldn't have, but she did. She stepped inside hesitantly, as if unsure of the reception she would receive. I didn't acknowledge her, keeping my eyes on the coffee table. On the divorce papers my lawyer had sent that morning. Her gaze landed on them instantly. "Wow," she murmured. "You didn't waste any time." I finally looked at her. "Neither did you." For a split second, something flickered in her expression. Maybe guilt, maybe just irritation that I wasn't playing along with whatever script she had imagined. She let out a sigh and set her bag down. "Listen, I don't want this to turn into something ugly." I almost laughed. Now she cared about that? Jessica pressed her lips together, her voice steady but strained. "It doesn't have to be a mess, okay? We can handle this like adults." I leaned back against the couch, arms crossed. Adults don't lie. They don't cheat. They don't manipulate their partners into doubting their own reality. She let out a sharp breath, crossing her arms tightly. "God, I forgot how impossible you are to talk to when you're like this." I tilted my head. "Like what?" She waved a hand vaguely in my direction. "Like this. Cold. Shut down. Cold." The words settled in my mind, slicing through me with startling clarity. Jessica wasn't looking for a real conversation. She didn't want honesty or closure. What she wanted was control. She wanted me emotional, furious, yelling, so she could cast me as the villain. So she could leave with the satisfaction of feeling justified. But I wasn't going to give her that. Not anymore. Reaching for the divorce papers, I flipped through them. "I'll sign these today. You can keep the house if you want it." Her eyes widened, surprise flickering across her face. "You're not even going to fight for it?" I shook my head. "No, I don't want it. I don't want anything that connects me to you." That got a reaction. A sharp inhale, quick and unexpected. Like she hadn't prepared for me to be this final. She opened her mouth, hesitated, then finally spoke. "So that's it? You're just done?" I exhaled as I stood up. "I was done the moment you looked me in the eye and blamed me for all of this." For the first time, I saw real uncertainty in her expression. Jessica swallowed, her usual confidence slipping. "I didn't mean that." I met her gaze, unwavering. "Yes, you did." A silence stretched between us, heavy and unshakable. It settled into the space like a thick fog, pressing against every unspoken word. And then, I saw it the exact moment she realized she had lost. That there was no salvaging this. No way to twist the narrative in her favor. No way to reshape the story to paint herself as the victim. For the first time since this all began, she looked small, uncertain. Her weight shifted, fingers twitching at her sides, before she finally grabbed her bag. "I'll have my lawyer review everything," she said, her voice quieter than before. I nodded. "Good." Jessica turned toward the door but hesitated. When she spoke again, it was softer. "I never wanted it to end like this." I didn't respond, because I didn't care. She lingered, as if waiting for something. A reaction, a last-minute plea, an opening. But I gave her nothing. Eventually, she just nodded to herself and walked out. This time I knew she wasn't coming back. I didn't follow her. Didn't listen for the sound of her car pulling away. Didn't watch the door as it closed behind her. I simply stood there, in the middle of the house that had once felt like home, and realized something. I wasn't sad. For so long I had braced myself for the grief, for the crushing weight of losing the woman I had once planned to spend my life with. But now that she was truly gone, there was nothing. No heartbreak. No second-guessing. No regret. Only relief. I sat back down, staring at the divorce papers on the table. Just yesterday, the thought of signing them had felt like an ending, like a death sentence. But now? Now, it felt like a beginning. I picked up a pen and signed. Every page, every section. My name in bold ink, closing the door on something that had been over for a long time. When I finished, I set the papers aside and exhaled. A deep, cleansing breath. And for the first time in months, I smiled. Because Jessica had been right about one thing. I would regret this. But not the way she thought. I would regret all the time I wasted on someone who had never truly deserved it. And now? Now I was free.